वहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
पुनरपि जननं पुनरपि मरणं पुनरपि जननी जठरे शयनम्। इह संसारे बहुदुस्तारे कृपया पारे पाहि मुरारे। प्रत्याचर्पटविरचितग्रन्थः पुण्या पुण्यविवर्जितपन्थः। योगी योगनियोजितचित्तो रमते बालोन्मत्तवदेव। कस्त्वं कोऽहं कुतायातः कामे जननी को मे तातः। इति परिभावय सर्वमसारं विश्वं त्यक्त्वा स्वप्नविचारम्। त्वयि मयि चान्यत्रैको विष्णुः व्यर्थं कुप्यसि मय्यसहिष्णुः। भवसमचित्तः सर्वत्र त्वं वाञ्छस्य चिराद्यदि विष्णु त्वम्। शत्रौ मित्रे पुत्रे बन्धौ मा कुरु यत्नं विग्रहसन्धौ। सर्वस्मिन्नपि पश्यात्मानं सर्वत्रोत्सृज भेदाज्ञानम्। कामं क्रोधं लोभं मोहं त्यक्त्वात्मानं पश्यति सोऽहम्। आत्मज्ञानविहीना मूढा ते पच्यन्ते नरकनिगूढः। येयं गीता नाम सहस्रं ध्येयं श्रीपतिरूपमजस्रम्। ज्ञेयं सज्जनसङ्गे चित्तं देयं दीनजनाय च वित्तम्। सुखतः क्रियते रामा भोगः पश्चादन्तशरीरे रोगः। यद्यपि लोके मरणं शरणं तदपि न मुञ्चति पापाचरणम्। अर्थमनर्थं भावय नित्यं नास्ति ततः सुखलेशः सत्यम्। पुत्रादपि धनभाजां भीतिः सर्वत्रैषा विहिता रीतिः। प्राणायामं प्रत्याहारं नित्यानित्यविवेकविचारम्। जाप्यसमेतसमाधिविधानं पूर्ववधानं महदवधानम्। गुरुचरणाम्बुजनिर्भरभक्तः संसारादचिराद्भवमुक्तः। सेन्द्रियमानसनियमादेवं द्रक्ष्यसि निजहृदयस्थं देवम्।
Chapter 18 of Gita talks about 3 types of happiness. As he has classified various other aspects of action, Lastly, he classifies happiness into three categories. What is real happiness or true happiness, which is sattvic happiness? What is false happiness, which is rajasic happiness? And a different kind of happiness, which is a tamasic happiness, which cannot be brought into the purview of pursuit of happiness. Yet some people are relishing in that type of happiness, which is tamasic happiness. All these three types of happiness are experienced by the mind in the world. It's all coming under the realm of experience. English may not have an equivalent term, but we use the term bliss for the term ananda. The happiness that we were talking about, three types, is called as sukha. Sukha and ananda are not the same. Sukha has an opposite called dukkha. Sukha and dukkha form a pair of opposite. End of sukha is dukkha. End of dukkha is sukha. They are varying in various degrees. That means sukha has a beginning and an end. Ananda has no beginning and no end. It is called as Swarupa Lakshana. Swarupa Lakshana means that is your own inherent original nature. It does not have an opposite. It is infinite. In the commentary of Taittiriya Upanishad, Shankaracharya says, what is Ananta is Ananda. What is infinite is bliss. Because there a classical definition of God or Brahman comes, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. So Anantam is Anandam. Ananda is not comparable to any bliss that we go through or experience in this world. It is of a different nature altogether. We are not talking about that here. The tamasic happiness is the lowest form of happiness, where people try to derive happiness from sleep. People derive happiness from laziness or indolence, inactivity. In other words, everybody who goes through sleep on a daily basis does experience bliss. There is no doubt about it. But when a person seeks happiness in trying to sleep and trying to be lazy and trying to be indolent, that is what is classified as a tamasic happiness. Rajasic happiness is what most people in the world are pursuing, which is false happiness, which is happiness born out of contact born pleasures, sense objects. So he says Rajasic happiness is providing you happiness, providing you pleasure, but it is only short lived. It is only temporary in nature. It starts as Amrita. Amrita means nectar, but ultimately ends up as poison or visha. It results in addiction. It results in neutralization. Neutralization means a state comes where you are in touch with the object, where you are in contact with the object, but you derive no pleasure out of it. You are neutralized. The economics first lesson that we learn is that diminishing marginal utility. Right? Exactly the same principle applies in this case of contact born pleasure. The first sweet or rasagula that you eat definitely gives you pleasure. 2 sweets if you eat, there is more pleasure, but that more pleasure is not double. The second rasagula gives you lesser pleasure. The third rasagula gives still lesser pleasure. This is diminishing marginal utility till a point where it comes where it gives zero pleasure. So we see that some people get into alcohol. They go to such an extent that they drink now lots of bottles and bottles of alcohol. But they don't derive any pleasure, zero pleasure. That state is called as neutralization. So it all starts with a pleasure. It can be any contact born pleasure. I'm just giving example of something which we eat. It can be a television. It can be any contact born pleasure where you are contacting the object with the attitude of deriving pleasure out of it. Even if a person speaks to his friend on a daily basis so that it is nice for him, he is deriving from pleasure. After a few days, few weeks, maybe you will still call, speak, but you will not enjoy that. It will be monotonous. It will be boring. This will be applicable to all contact born pleasures. This is called as false happiness. It is false because it appears to be happy in the beginning, but it's not really happiness. This is what is the pleasure most people in the world pursue. Sattvic happiness is the opposite of this. Sattvic happiness starts as poison and ends up as nectar. It is just the opposite of false happiness. In the beginning, you may not find pleasure in it, but as you practice it more and more, in the long run, not only it is pleasurable, it is beneficial also. Rajasic happiness, on the other hand, if you eat too much of sweets, if you drink too much of alcohol, or if you indulge in too much of any kind of sensual activity, it is neither physically good for you, nor you are going to have mental pleasure. Sattvic happiness is exactly the opposite. You derive maximum benefit out of it, and it is enjoyable also. Take for example, getting up early in the morning and studying. It is not very easy practice. It is a poison in the beginning. But one who has tasted it, if he pursues with it, and then he carries on with that activity, it is no doubt very beneficial for him, but in the long run he enjoys it also. Doing exercises, yoga or jogging, whatever you do, walk, it is very painful in the beginning stages. It could be few days, few weeks. I am not giving a definite time frame for any person. It is according to each and every person. But as you practice this more, ask those persons who are regularly doing it, they will not exchange that time for anything else. They want to continue that. This is called as sattvic pleasure, true happiness. But sattvic pleasure is also a pleasure which is part and parcel of the world. Sattvic pleasure leads to that ultimate ananda. It leads to that, but that has no direct connection or direct comparison with it. Now, why I was talking about pleasures is, in general, we find people understanding and wanting to enjoy pleasures in terms of material contacts, objects. You need more money, but for what purpose? I need to buy this, I need maybe more comforts. All that is with reference to what it caters to me at the sensual level, or maximum at the emotional level. There are various enjoyments that we go through. This is where most people's definition of pleasure stops. Higher or little deeper than finding pleasure in the objects is what, I forgot, a Western management guru or a philosopher. He talks about object, OEM. O for object, E is the second stage where he says is engagement. Engagement is when a person is able to find that pleasure in doing the work that he is ought to do. So there is a subtle change or shift here from deriving the pleasure through organs of perception to organs of action. In other words, he is not deriving pleasure here, but doing the work as it is extremely satisfying for him. Incidentally, money comes out of it and he becomes richer. That is all different. But he is very happy because he is following his passion of whatever activity he is doing. Some people go up to this level and they are engaging themselves in activities where they are able to derive pleasure. This is somewhat deeper than the mere object-oriented pleasure where you contact it for the sake of pleasure only. But still, that passionate activity, somebody could be a software engineer, somebody is a cricketer, somebody is a teacher, you are able to do that work for the happiness that you derive out of it, passion that you may not be extremely well paid, but you are quite happy doing that. Some people are there, able to identify their swadharma and they are able to do it. But even the people who go up to this level mostly are confined with reference to why and what they do this activity for. They don't have any purpose behind it. I mean, this is for my general, me, my family, that is the whole circle they are caught up in, and in that process they are able to do some activity which is in alignment with their passion. When a person continues like this, he may hit upon the next one which is, you can say, vision or a mission. Something where they are able to derive happiness, understanding the purpose of what life is all about, which is to derive maximum pleasure for others. In other words, Ultimately we understand the pleasure that we seek for ourselves lies in making others happy. This is a very easy formula, Swami Vivekananda says, but it does not appear so easily in the front of our eyes, but this is the truth. The truth is, all of us seek happiness, and the true happiness that we seek actually lies in making others happy. So some person, when they are doing the activity of their passion, they hit upon what is it all about. They may leave their lucrative job in America or something, and they say, come and do to uplift the tribals, or to educate some slum children, or to pursue Vedanta or something like that, which is in terms of extremely beneficial for the society, and they are in a deeper search of truth within themselves. This is what actually prompts them. If you go back to Sattvic happiness, this aligns with that. The reason for Sattvic happiness, he says in that verse, is Atma Buddhi Prasadajam. Why will a person suddenly want to get up early and do exercises if he has not been doing all this while? Unless doctor forces him. There also it is because something is forced he will do. But pleasure is when you are doing it from within. Why will a person suddenly get up in the morning and study Fall of Human Intellect or any book or listen to any lecture? These are all not activities which are commonly done. Why will he suddenly do that? Unless otherwise the thought is put into him and his intellect understands the benefit of it. That is called as Atma Buddhi Prasadajam. Clarity of one's own intellect. His intellect opens up and understands this is what it is. This is what I should do in life. This is what is the human being life is given for. If he is able to understand that, then he is able to pursue even if it is poisonous in the beginning, because he knows ultimately it is going to be beneficial. So when a person has a vision or mission in life, he is able to go deeper within his personality, by virtue of which he is able to serve others in whatever form. It is not the total number of people that you serve that counts. The attitude is, how can I be beneficial? I have been given certain talents which is used for the benefit of the world. That's about all. There is no prefix or suffix added to it. If a person gets into that mode, the pleasure that he derives is definitely much more. We can map it in a broader system which is given in our Shastras as 3 Purushartha. I am not equating this to that, but generally there is a mapping here as Dharma, Artha and Kama. Kama is the pleasure seeking attitude, Artha is the wealth seeking attitude, and Dharma is the practice by which you live your life based on the principle of how it should be lived. That is called as Dharma. So what is your aim or motive or objective in life is to follow any of the 3. When a person follows only the Kama aspect, which is the enjoyment aspect, he is in the first category. He is deriving life is just for enjoying. Life is just for pleasure. When we talk about Artha here, that's why I am saying it is not exact mapping, but when a person pursues wealth, he is into activity. That's all it means. If he is able to derive pleasure out of the activities that he does, that is the second category. But usually we talk about Artha and Kama as acquisition and enjoyment. But this is the second aspect. Dharma. Dharma is when you are supposed to do what you ought to do as your duty. There lies the pleasure. Pleasure is just in doing what you ought to do. Yeah. So if a person is able to mold his life like this, automatically he is moving towards spiritual evolution, towards spiritual enlightenment. The last class we concluded with that question that can a person be really happy without self-knowledge? So in other words, even as a person pursues happiness, leaving aside the false happiness and other types of happiness, if a person is genuinely in the practice of getting sattvic happiness, somewhere or the other he has to connect with the self, consciously or unconsciously. Even as a person doesn't know Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita or self-knowledge, but he is able to genuinely strike upon serving others and he is genuinely feeling that happiness. To the extent that he is able to identify others' self, to that extent his self is opened up. That's all it means. So probably by God's grace, if he comes in contact with the knowledge, he will catch like camphor and fire. It will strike him very fast. So, what is Atma Jnana? Atma Jnana is opening up of your own self. That is called as self-knowledge. A person who is, let us say, a person who is doing cow protection, revival of rivers, forest conservation, various things that they do to promote nature or to help the poor, whatever it is. Go deep and analyze as to why he is prompted to do this. Even as you feel that the river is drying, it needs revival, you don't see it as a body of water which is lifeless. You see it as a living entity which is dying. So you want to revive it. So you are able to see the life in it. Where do you see life? How is life possible? Life is possible only when the Atma is there. So if you are in connection with the Atma in any object or being, you are in touch with that Atma Jnana only. So if a person is able to connect to that and move further, internally he is being blissful or peaceful. When I say that, his mind becomes more quietened, he becomes more equanimous in life, he becomes more happy in life. Bereft of this, if a person considers my body, my intellect, this is what it's all about, and he derives pleasure only for myself, they undergo what is known as agitation. Agitation is opposite of sukha, dukkha, pain. So that is what he says here, Atma Jnana Vihina Mudaha. Fools are those who are bereft of this self-knowledge. Te pachyante narakani gudaha. They are tortured as captives in hell. Hell or heaven can be understood as the state of mind. Your state of mind when it is very, very agitated, when you go through extreme pain, when you go through extreme torture. That is why the picturization of hell is in such a way that you go through extreme torture. If a person is, fried in oil, how much pain he will go through, that much agitation you are going through. That's all it means. You are roasted in sulfur, or you are dragged along the road with thorns or something like that. All this is extreme pain. So your mind will be extremely in an agitated state. So a person bereft of Atma Jnana, that means on the opposite side, he is fully into material and worldly thoughts only. Such a person that is why those who are saying this life is just beginning is the birth and end is the death and you have to enjoy life as it is, even them as they pursue that enjoyment beyond a point, they are not able to know how and where to continue it further. It results, as I said, in neutralization and various forms of monotony and boredom. Such persons who are extremely extroverted like that, they go through agitations in this life. So some people may be in such a state that they may not be even aware of their agitations, but what they go through is actually hell. So he says, those bereft of self-knowledge are tortured as captives in hell. And then you go to the first line, which we covered in the last class, that these agitations, which are various modifications of desire, Kamam, Krodham, Lobham, Moham. Kama is desire, that I want this object. Krodham is what, if I don't get that object, what I have is anger. Lobham is if I get that object, what I have is greed, more and more. Moham is when I go to the extreme of any of these emotions, it deludes and confuses me where I am totally not who I am. That is a state of delusion. Tyaktva, all this having crossed over, having all this renounced. Atmanam pashyati soham. If you are able to cleanse your heart of all these desires, then you are able to see the reflection in the pure water of the mind inside, which is the self shining, as it were, soham. Even as you see the reflection on the lake, you realize the face here, not in the water. You see it very clearly there, but you realize it here. Like that, you realize finally, he am I. Soham is a very famous phrase in the Upanishads. Saha means he. God, who I was referring to as he, as a third person, he who is controlling everything, he who is the master of everything, he who is the universal Lord. Aham. He am I. I am that. I am that principle. The essence in me and the essence in the Supreme Lord is one and the same, is the realization. So he is able to finally realize the self only by pursuing the Atman Jnana. Yeah.
So we said those bereft of self-knowledge. Now the question is, for a person, does he understand that he is bereft of self-knowledge? That is one category. that he understands he is bereft of self-knowledge and he is doing whatever karma is given. Other category, he doesn't even understand that he has got he is bereft of self-knowledge. But because of some bhakti or something, he is carrying on with that. So both the categories have achieved the same result in the end or what?
See, this is what you have to precisely think over. If a person is completely bereft of self-knowledge or anything to do with God or Atma or something, why will he do bhakti at all?
No, old ladies in villages, they did not have so much gyan about what is Brahman or what is Ishvara or something, but with the way they have brought up and with the way they are doing the regular day-to-day activities, they will do morning puja, they will do everything and,
Correct. In their puja, whether they are worshipping Shiva, Vishnu, whoever they are doing, what is the concept of Shiva or Vishnu for them? What is it actually?
No, the way we understand the knowledge that we are them.
No. That is realization. We are not talking about realization. We are talking about to the extent that a person is attuned to the self in some form or the other, he is going to be in the path of peace and bliss even within the world. So a person who may not know what is Atman, Brahman, Upanishad, Gita, all those things, they are in a very simple-minded form, just worshipping a deity which has been pointed out to them by their ancestors or their family rites, or they are doing that puja. As far as they are concerned, that represents the supreme reality. That's about all. It is not a symbolism, it is not a representation, that is actually the truth itself. As long as they are attuned to that truth, to that extent they will be happy. And that's all it is. So in other words, the happiness comes in connection with the Atma Vidya in some form or the other. This is the point I'm saying. Yes, sir.
If somebody is that tamasic was as ignorant that he doesn't even understand, he or she doesn't even understand, he or she is going through his mental agitation or mental health, what you said, then the impact of current thought is applicable or not? In the sense that the negative impact of bad karma and the person not even realizing that he's going through hell, will it get adjusted or get adjusted?
No, adjusted in the sense, whatever he is going through at that point of time is also within the purview of the fruits of the action that he is going through.
No, that's the, but the person not even realizing. It's important that you should feel that pain. If you're not feeling that,
Why? It will. The thing is, see, suppose if a person, let's say, you are a person who is conscious, who is aware, let us say, we are talking about a general karma. You are staying in the 10th floor of a building and there is some dirt or some stone or something in your house, and in a fit of motion you throw it out of the window. Okay, it may hurt somebody down, you are aware of it, but at that point of time you don't go through all those thinking. You want to quickly get rid of it, you throw it, which you know, but you at that point of time everything overrides that and you do it. Okay, whether it hits somebody down or not is the point. You have committed some karma here and you will go through whatever is the fruit of that karma. Suppose if there is absolutely a illiterate servant maid or a person who is working in your house, who has just come from a village, he doesn't know what a city life is. He used to throw from his house behind in the farm there. Here he threw it from the... He is also doing the same activity as you are doing. But his karma is different. You understand? His karma is different. His karma is different because he is not intentionally doing, and he is in ignorance he is doing. But in both the cases, the activity is the same, which is throwing the stone down, which is a very harmful activity for anybody going there. Both of you will go through the same motions of the results of action, but the way you will go through and the way he will go through is different. It is different. So it is not necessary. But he is still in a stage where he has to gain more awareness about others' existence and how he should conduct himself. That's a different thing. So in other words, a person when he is in an extreme state of tamas, where he is not even aware of the surroundings, where he is not even aware of what he is doing, tamas is, that is why we say ignorance of ignorance. You are not just ignorant, you are not even aware that you are ignorant. At that stage, whatever karma you go through, you will have equivalent result of actions. That person has to gain knowledge, have awareness, go through agitations, which is all a rajasic state of mind. Then only he can rise to the sattvic state of mind. In the process, there is no short circuiting. That is why when a person is in tamas, in the 3rd chapter it is said, as a child is covered by the womb, the fetus in the mother's womb, it however hard you try, it will take 9 or 10 months for you to get it out, and it is completely impervious to light. There's complete darkness. At that point of time, whatever it is going through, it is going through. It has to take time. Similarly, at any point of time, whatever and however is the state of mind that you go through, a person may be living in extreme abject poverty, and that is the way of life that they are going through, and he may have disease within him and he is coughing, and he may not be extremely aware of whether he is going through disease or not, but that motion that he is going through is also the resultant of all the karma that he is going through. Even after this, I am saying separately, after a lot of extreme torture like this, even then you are not aware and you don't wake up, then what will happen is nature helps you. Based on your own tamas, further and further hard hitting will be given to you. Knocks and shocks will be given to you, where you will start waking up and understanding and realizing, what am I doing, where am I going through, then it will make you search for something little more in life. Like that it happens. So it is everybody, the law of karma in its total circle doesn't make anybody escape, but each person goes through according to his karma.
So then how do I make myself aware more and more in everyday life and every walk?
It is only through knowledge. It is that we are having this direct study. So in other words, we learn in life through knowledge or experience. There's a saying in English that fools learn from their own experience. Wise people learn from others' experience. Others' experience, all thought out and well reflected over, and by deep realization, is the knowledge that is given here. If a person is smart enough, he will not go through each and every experience in depth to understand what it is. Now here you must be careful in understanding one thing, that not everybody who goes through experience necessarily learns from it. Only a person who is able to reflect over the experience will try to learn something. Second aspect is, even if you go through certain experiences, you must have a basic clarity of intellect to derive the knowledge out of that experience. Otherwise, you may correlate something, cause and effect wrongly, and you may derive a wrong message also. So the right way to gain knowledge is through the Shastras. See, suppose if a person has to go through drugs to understand the ill effects of drugs, he may learn, but it may be very late process, a delayed process. He may lose 20 years of his life or something like it can happen. If he is smart enough, he will understand what the cigarette or this drugs or anything will do to him through knowledge of others, through understanding, through reflection, probably with minimum of experience. When I say minimum, not in each and everything he has to taste. If he is able to even relate to one, either directly or vicariously, he is able to relate to others like that. But the right way is to get into the knowledge as early as possible, because this is only teaching us as to what the laws of life and how they function. So ultimately it relates to our own internal experience of finding happiness. So you go through a certain path and you say that I'm not finding happiness, or I'm getting more and more agitated. Then what is the path that you are going through? It should immediately strike you. So you have deviated away from dharma. So what is dharma? That is directly given here. So the awareness is given to us by the Dharma Shastras and the Vedantic knowledge. That is how we understand what awareness is. So Swami Ramatirtha says, the biggest punishment that you can inflict upon a sinner is to give him knowledge, is to educate him. That is the biggest punishment. Because you are making him go from his present level of consciousness to the higher level of consciousness. The moment he goes from that stage to the higher stage itself, because his erstwhile way of life will be pulling him here and his knowledge is pushing him here, that will cause agitation, and that is a necessary price that he has to pay to go to the next level. That is why Ajmal Kasab, who was caught on 26/11/2008, the person who came to commit that crime, who had probably a very clear vision as to what has to be done, and in that case that he came, unfortunate circumstances, he was caught by the sacrifice of Umble. And then he was in prison for more than a year or so. The person who was finally hanged is a different person than the person who was caught. So the process through which he would have gone through in 1 year, not necessarily that he read any Gita or anything there, but the very fact of making him go through certain reflective thoughts, etc., that itself is not a very easy experience that you'll go through. Suppose if a person is a suicide bomber, he came, he blasted himself and killed everybody, and he also went. There is no way of him gaining anything. But this person is actually, whether directly or indirectly, if he is made to go to the next level of consciousness, that is a marked difference in his karma itself. That is why when the king's laws for the kings were given in the good old days, according to the Smritis, how they have to give punishment, it is in line with the Dharma Shastras only, that the punishment given by the king, whether he is put in jail or other things, whatever is the karmic consequences that he will go through because of his karma, that he is consciously made to go through that punishments, so that he is made aware of what he has actually done. So that is why even today there is a rule that if a person has a good conduct in the jail, if he has 10 years of punishment, maybe in the 8th year or 9th year, they may consider releasing him. Of course, this type of releasing will not come in the 2nd year or 3rd year. It is good enough of time he has spent. This is also in the purview of the law of karma only, that if he has really regretted and there is a remorse by which he has really now gained certain values and he has gone through that sort of thing, then that is where the kripa of the God comes in terms of nullifying our karma also. So it is again not going out of the purview of law of karma, but it is the quickest way is to gain the knowledge of the self. Swami Ramtirtha gives a very beautiful example. It's a very deep example to understand. He says, if a person has been given 5 years or 8 years of imprisonment, okay, for the type of act that he did, or for the type of sin that he committed, whatever he did, he has been given 8 years of imprisonment. Suppose he dies in the prison in the 5th year, what happens to the remaining 3 years of his balance that he has to go through?
Depends on whether he has regret, he has repentance, if he has changed himself accordingly, the karma which is unfulfilled or whatever.
You are talking about the Vedantic law of karma. I am talking about the normal punishment that the government gives.
Okay.
He has to go through 8 years of punishment, but he has died now. What happens?
Nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen. The 3 years is as though written off. That's all it is. Isn't it? Even in the recent, we saw after the Jayalalitha's case, she had died and the pronouncement of the judgment came after that. Shashikala and others were prosecuted. They were still alive, but how can you prosecute Jayalalitha? She's gone. So as though it is not to say that she is not right or wrong. That is not the discussion. She cannot undergo punishment. She is not there. This you understand at the physical level. Similarly, he says, as you go through your karma as it is, okay, that's why I'm saying it's a deep understanding for you to. If you die a death of ego, what happens to the balance karma? It really doesn't stick to you at all. You don't go through. Now the question is, how does the death of ego happens? The death of ego is called as, when you go through the karmic consequences of your whatever, prarabdha and other thing that you are going through. When you die in between, dying here is the death of the ego itself, which is called self-realization. Post-realization, there is nothing that is going to stick to you. There is no karma. That person is beyond the realms of karma. But how does it technically happen? See, the wiping away of your sanchita by the knowledge of the self, Atmagyan, that is the sharp arrows of Tattvamasi, that thought has gone into you and you are in the deep meditation, contemplation and you realize the self, you are one with the self. Afterwards, whatever your body may go through mechanically, all that is not touching to you at all. Now, this question of whether you will be able to meditate there and you can realize the self without settling all the karmic consequences before, this is something that you have to understand, that various statements in Gita and other things says, knowledge wipes away all the karma right in the very base itself. So, no doubt, whatever you have done before, you are going through the karmic consequences of that. As you do that, when you are pursuing this knowledge of self, you are putting a very, very powerful cause by which you are elevating yourself to a different level of consciousness, by which you are able to burn it off all completely. In other words, it is not suddenly one day by lottery you realize the self. There is a hard effort that goes through, and then, as it were, it finally pulls you there. So, what anyway finally absolve you of all the sins, of all the karmic consequences, of all the karma before, is direct knowledge of the self. Once you get in there, you are absolved of it completely. 100% you are absolved. Vis-a-vis those who have not got the Atmagyan, those who are still in the state of mental agitation, they go through the hell. That's how we have to understand it. We have deviated away from your question, but this is the full picture of it.
So, corollary to what we talked about, you said that the biggest punishment anyone can give is to educate a person who is in the state of ignorance.
Right.
Now, the biggest dana is also considered to be the impartment of knowledge to that person. Now, the question comes of patrata.
Question comes up?
Patrata means what to say in English?
How to give? Meaning, who is the deserving?
Deserving candidate. Now, if some teacher or somebody, he like in this class is giving for a general, average level of class something. But if it comes 1:1, and one cannot access the position of the person whom you are giving something, or just by imparting knowledge or something, then what happens to the person who is imparting the knowledge?
No. When we say patrata and all comes with reference to giving the self-knowledge. Who is the Adhikari for this Vedantic knowledge, self-knowledge? There are, and again, even for let us say, if a person has to be a Adhikari for nuclear science or something, he must have studied some amount of physics and other things before he can become a Adhikari for it. Swamiji said when he was in the college in Loyola, Sir C.V. Raman that time had got the Nobel Prize. Before he did his experiments in Calcutta, he was a product of Loyola College in Chennai. So they were all obviously very elated, and they called him for a lecture, Raman's effect, which has got him the Nobel Prize. First Asian to win Nobel Prize in science. So he very clearly said who will attend his lecture. Third year students of maths, third year students of physics, and only the teachers, not even other. And even that crowd, after the lecture, Swamiji said, that time there was no PowerPoint, right? 7 boards he had kept to explain all the formula and everything. And yeah, everybody was so enthusiastic because a Nobel laureate, great, and our own son of soil is coming and lecturing. So they all started taking notes. Swamiji said after the first board, he couldn't follow anything. Everything went over his head. So after the lecture was all over, they went to their teacher and he said, "Sir, can you explain? We couldn't understand." He said, "For me, it is 1.5 boards. That's all." Afterwards, I couldn't understand it. So there is Adhikari for that also. So when you talk about educating a person who is a sinner, it is educating at that level. A person, if he is made to understand, a person is not even taking care of the family, he is beating his wife and not educating his children and being very rude and only taking care of his alcoholic needs or something like that he is doing. If that person is made to undergo such a punishment, and by way of which he is made to realize the value of just his family, that is the next level of awareness. That's what we talk about. So when a person is made to understand the value of others in terms of his own family, his own father, mother or something, which he is not aware now, to that extent it is coming. So we are not talking about giving a Bhagavad Gita or Upanishadic knowledge.
That's okay. What my question was directed towards the person who is giving the knowledge. It may not be this Vedantic knowledge, but a regular Vyavaharic knowledge in the world.
Yeah.
Now that is considered to be Sattvic Dana, means you are imparting knowledge. Now, if it is
No, Sattvic Dhanam is defined as that which you give, which ought to be given in Desha Kala Patra. To that person, to that time and that place. That is, anything can be.
Yes, Kal Patra. Now, if somebody misjudges the Patra, then the effect of Dana is gone or what?
Yeah, the effect of the dana is always the effect of the dana is always measured by the results it produces. The result it produces. Therefore, if a person who has thought out and done like that, he will know exactly how it to be given.
Sir,
Yeah.
so in just taking the cue from what he is talking, very interesting is when Valmiki, when he was doing this last act, so to say, and this person tells him, okay, go and find from your wife and children if they are going to accept the papa of your actions. So that is also a kind of a gyan.
Gyan. It is a gyan. It is making him aware. That strikes him. That strikes him. That is how he is able to transform himself. That is why we say, in pursuit of any sattvic happiness, it ought to come from the clarity of your own intellect, whatever level it is. Atma buddhi prasadajam. Unless otherwise your intellect is clear and convinced about what is the right thing, it will not want to pursue it. Then that is a opening of his eyes for him. My God. And he was very clear and genuine and doing. At that level, he was operating. To go to the next level, it is only the jnana that will take you.
So the person who gave him this gyan, he could have given him in a very normal way. It could have reacted with him the way it reacted. It may not have reacted also. There is also a possibility.
No, he gave it in the right way only. That is the way it should be given. Who gave us Narada? That is the story. There cannot be a greater guru than him. Yes, sir.
Sir, you mentioned that we must realize the soul is a part of God, and I am a part of God. Well,
Sorry, I did not say that.
no, that I don't remember the verses actually. It says that that one that I am God or something you told. Right. I am going to take a reference from B.R. Chopra's Mahabharata, where Krishna told Arjun that मुझे ही देख लो पाप, इस पूरे त्रिभुवन में ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं जो मैं प्राप्त नहीं कर सकता, पर फिर भी मैं तुम्हारा सारथी बना, बस अपना कर्म कर रहा हूँ. And Dhritarashtra mentioned that even if the higher sages say in this tone, this will be considered as ego. But Krishna, the way he told, is not egoist at all. Only Narayan can say a word like this. So,
Not Dhritarashtra, Sanjay.
Sanjay, sorry, Sanjay told this one. So I want to say, but if I say like this, if I feel like this, I can be also egoistic. I'm not saying I will be, but I can be also egoistic. I can be a spiritual. But how can I realize I'm egoistic or I'm spiritual?
That is why you are right. When Krishna says he is not egoistic, and Krishna is considered as Avatara as far as our Hindu belief is concerned, Swayam Narayana himself. So when the realized masters use the first person singular pronoun I, they can use it in two different ways. We are talking about normal. When I say normal, who we consider as self-realized souls. Let's say Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was there. Ramana Maharshi was there. Whenever they use the term I means the supreme Brahman, which is the consciousness, whatever you want to call it. So that is what, when you give the statement like Aham Brahmasmi, that's what it means. Okay. Sometimes from the Vyavaharik point of view, when they are in conversation with you, sir, how is your body? Yeah, I am feeling okay. They may say I to refer to this with a full sense of detachment from the body. Just to, in a normal conversation, so these are the two senses in which they will use the term I. When we use the word I, when Ajnani uses the word I, which is in complete identification with the body, mind and intellect. I refer to myself as this body only. When this body means this body containing some thoughts, some character, some mind and intellect. This is what I refer to as I. And for us, the deep-rooted attachment of the body, mind, intellect is so powerful that it is quite natural for us. For them to feel I is Brahman is natural because they have reached that state. But from Vyavaharik point of view, they may refer to the erstwhile body in which they were traveling from your point of view and my point of view. But with reference to Krishna, it is something different. Avatara is that supreme Brahman coming down in a form. This is a concept that we accept and have faith in Hinduism. So this is called as a Ishvara Tattva. Ishvara is that supreme Lord which is in conjoinment with Brahman, in conjoinment with Maya, but he is not caught up in the Maya. He takes the position of creator, he takes the position of maintainer and dissolver. He is the Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. This type of a statement we normally hear from the mouth of Krishna, particularly in Bhagavad Gita. We don't find it in any other text or as much as we can see. So when he says I, he is referring to that supreme self in the form of supreme Lord. So there is no egoism there. So therefore, when he says that I am performing the duties, I have nothing to achieve from the point of self-realization. The self has nothing to achieve. It has nothing more to gain, nothing more to give. Yet it constantly engages itself in action in the form that he is in. So he is prompting Arjuna, you also better act.
That's one more question. Sir, in Gita, Krishna has told Karmaneva Vikaraste, don't expect, just do. But sir, but I want to know what is the difference between expectation and goal?
See, expectation is what your mind is lingering towards the fruit of the action.
Okay.
Goal is something your intellect decides to fix, for which the action can be directed in that direction. See, in other words, if there is no goal in life, you will not do any action. But the fruit of the action should not be a motive for you to act. That's what he says in that verse. Of course, I'm giving it in a simple way. It needs a lot of explanation. You simply take it like this, that no action can be possible without something to achieve in the future. When you are able to fix something for the welfare of others, see, suppose a person has a business tendencies, he has to do business, but that business can be done with a goal that it needs to create a lot of asset for the country or for employment. This is sort of a vision. This is a goal. But fruit is what comes out of it. Profit for me, name for me. These are all the fruits. So when you work, you don't work for the fruits of action. You work with a goal in mind. This is what it means.
And sir, you told that agitation, when a fool or an ignorant person goes to the level of enlightenment, he passes to such kind of agitation which he cannot feel in the when he is actually ignorant. So I believe there is certain kind of senses which activate within us. So which sense it is?
It is not a sense as it were. It is the question of opening up of your awareness to a different level. When you feel agitation in the mind, it has nothing to do with any senses. It is to do with your own thought process, your emotions within your personality. When your awareness is of a different level, see, suppose if a person has no problem in, let us say, killing another person or cutting an animal and eating. Here we are not talking about vegetarianism and non-vegetarianism. That is a different thing. But a person has no problem with reference to killing an animal and eating, let us say. Now, if he is able to understand through knowledge that it is the same Atma which is functioning everywhere, others' pain is also my pain, others' joy is my joy, like that, if his awareness is improved, his experiential consciousness is increased, then the next time if he is forcing himself to do it, his mind will not cooperate. That is called as agitation. So it is not a sense that is activated. It is because of the awareness, the reaction within your personality that changes. That is called as sin. Sin in Vedantic context is when there is a negative reaction to your action which agitates your mind. Then from your standpoint, from the level that you are operating, you have committed a sin. That's what it means. Having transcended desire, anger, greed and delusion, one sees the self as he am I. Fools lack self-knowledge. They are tortured as captives in hell. We'll chant verse 27 twice.
Yeyam Gita Nama Sahasram Yeyam Shripati Rupamajasram Neyam Sajjana Sange Chittam Deyam Dina Janaya Chavittam Yeyam Gita Nama Sahasram Yeyam Shripati Rupamajasram Neyam Sajjana Sange Chittam Deyam Dina Janaya Chavittam
Bhagavad Gita and Sahasranama should be chanted. Form of the Lord of Lakshmi always meditated upon. The mind associated with the good and wealth given to the needy. It's a very famous verse. We classified Bhaja Govindam into the topics that Swamiji had also mentioned in the book. That the first verse is the important verse, which is the chorus verse, Bhaja Govindam. Then the next 12 verses, that is verses 2 to 13, is classified as bouquet of 12 flowers. Dvadasha Manjalika. Dvadasha Manjalika. Then the next 14 verses, 14 to 27, is Chaturdasha Manjarika. That is a bouquet of 14 flowers. This is the last verse where it culminates here. This verse gives what is known as a Bahiranga Sadhana. Bahiranga Sadhana is external sadhana, external efforts that we do. Subtler than that is Antaranga Sadhana. Antaranga Sadhana is what you do at a subtler level inside. See, when we do karma, it is external. When we do meditation, it is more internal. Both are acts towards spirituality, that is all fine, but there is a distinction as to who is the Adhikari and who performs it and what is more conducive and easy for him, like that it is. So, a general formula for Bahiranga Sadhana is given in verse 27. A general formula for Antaranga Sadhana is given in the verse 30. These are two important verses that summarizes the sadhana. Again, with reference to the general trend of understanding the karma, bhakti and jnana, this can be equated. Those who attended Sunandaji's talk, you would have seen her mention in most places sometimes karma, bhakti, jnana is indicated in some form or the other. It comes together because these three are the right royal paths. For the simple reason that we are having these three equipments of body, mind and intellect, and therefore we have to employ this body, mind and intellect in a proper way to reach the self. These are the main thing. There could be other things also, but these are the main paths. So here you can say that in this verse it is indicative of it. And when you do the sadhana properly, what is the result that will accrue to you even as you go along the path and what you must do with it, that is also indicated here. So there are 4 things that are said here. One should, he says, very interestingly, he says Gayam. Gayam means ought to be sung, ought to be chanted, you can say. Gita, Bhagavad Gita, Nama Sahasram, Vishnu Sahasranama. There was an interesting way of, you can say, a debate. These are the ways in which our Itihasa, Purana gives us scope to think. It has nothing blasphemous or anything to think apart from it. So in the Draupadi's, Vastra Haran, when she was disrobed in the Sabha by the Kauravas, by Dushasana, and the Pandavas were sitting there passively, helplessly there. It is said that she, by calling Krishna's name, she got herself protected. So, to emphasize the power of Lord's name, they say that it was not, Krishna was in Dwaraka as it were, if in the story he was in Dwaraka, but she shouted out for Krishna and the help came. So they were debating later on means our people who are studying the Shastras, Itihasas and their interpreters, commentaries. How did really Krishna help? Did really Krishna come at all? So there were many arguments whether he came or his power came or his manifestation came, what really helped her. So they said, no, Krishna really didn't come, because at that stage, in that frame of mind where people were there, if Krishna would have come, he would have first finished off the 5 Pandavas and the 100 Kauravas then and there. Because such a thing to happen right in front of his eyes and he's being there is not possible. He will not be there. That is why probably he didn't come, because he wanted Mahabharata to continue. Why he wanted to continue? For two reasons he wanted to continue. Because yet Vishnu Sahasranama and Bhagavad Gita are yet to come. Yet Bhagavad Gita and Vishnu Sahasranama, which are, one is just before the war, one is just after the war. These two are very, very essential, very interesting. These are yet to come. And they say, I do not know whether it's in the Sanskrit literature or Tamil or anything. When Draupadi recalls the incident when Krishna comes to meet her in the forest, so she is very angry and he says, I was calling for help, and he says, you also didn't come. You also didn't come. So then the question arises, if Krishna didn't come, who came actually? Who came was, nobody came. The power of Lord's name itself is so powerful that it will take care of all the needs. To emphasize the power of Lord's name, they may exaggerate and show the story like this. This is just a beautiful way of rendering the story. Now the point is, Adi Shankaracharya, the greatest Advaita master, the greatest soul who walked on this Bharatavarsha in Kali Yuga, his first work was a commentary on Vishnu Sahasranama. Very interesting. Throughout Bhaja Govindam, we see only Vishnu all the time. Bhaja Govindam itself is Govinda. Then here, Dhyayam Shripati Rupa Majastram, he says, various places he says that Vishnu. There are various other Sahasranamas also, equally good, equally powerful. But Vishnu Sahasranama is very famous. That's like similarly Gita also, various Gitas are there. Datta Gita is there, Avaduta Gita is there, Uddhava Gita is there. And some are considered even subtler depending on the patra of Uddhava vis-a-vis Arjuna. Yet Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavad Gita, meaning it is so powerful, it is so famous, and every master has commented on it like that it is. So we can say, take these two literally also, nothing wrong with it, but it can be taken as sample of any Shastra that you go through in reading. Now, when he says Gayam, it can be literally taken as even chanting and singing and being one with it in any form. That itself is very useful and powerful. But since he has mentioned the texts which are deep in their content, deep in their philosophical content, a little bit of study and reflection will go a long way in our intellectual sadhana. So what it is, we'll see in the next class. Now, Paramashikya.
Poornam Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.